Better late than never, right? Hey guys, sorry we're late today. Welcome to Art School Live. Today our guest is Chantel Barber. She's going to show you how to reinvent a painting. And you're going to love this. It's going to be really good. We're having some technical difficulties, but we're going to have that under control here in a second. She's going to be on. Chantel, welcome.
Yes. Hello, Eric. How are you?
I'm ready for Thanksgiving.
Yes, I am too.
Good. What are your big plans?
Oh, we're going to go up to Oklahoma and see extended family. So it's going to be a lot of fun.
And where are you? You said up. Are you in Texas?
I am in Denison, Texas.
Okay. All right. Dallas area. Nice.
Yes, I love it.
So tell us a little bit about what you're going to do today.
So what I'm going to do is take a painting that I thought was finished, but after stowing it in the closet for quite a while, I decided it had a lot of issues. Even though it's been varnished, I'm going to show how I take a piece like this and I reinvent it all over again.
Okay. And what's your medium? What are you going to be painting?
I'm working in acrylic.
Okay. Excellent. All right. Well, we're excited about this. We have a video with you, which everybody should see, and we'll talk about it later. But let's go ahead and get this show officially started.
It's Art School Live with Eric Rhoads. Now, here's your host, Eric Rhoads.
I don't know about you guys, but I'm already in Thanksgiving mindset. It's like, I don't know if I should be working or I should just be calling friends on the phone or eating chocolate or whatever I should be doing. But I'm ready. I hope you are too. I hope you'll go into the chat and let me know what you guys are doing for the holidays. And we have a really good show for you today with Chantel Barber. She's going to tell you how to reinvent a painting. We're going to get right to it right now. First, I want to show you some of her other work. If we have some of that we can pull up, that would be terrific. Oh, there. Okay. Beautiful, really beautiful work. And so we're going to learn a little bit about how to, oh, that's stunning, how to make a painting better. So let's get right to it. Chantel Barber, this is a painting that you already did. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct. Okay. It's one that is not, it doesn't pass my standard of it didn't pass the quality inspection. However, there's a lot of really great things that can be done with this. So what I've done is I've decided that even though it's been varnished, there's actually a really good thing about putting varnish over an acrylic painting and then working over the top of it. What happens is it creates almost a glide effect when you start to put paint over that. And because the varnish was a workable varnish, it's not going to cause a problem if I paint some more and then I revarnish when I'm done.
What does that mean, workable?
It's a more like a workable, it's kind of like a workable fixative. So you can spray it as you're creating your painting. You could spray several layers and then you can come back and continue to paint some more and then also use it as your final varnish coat.
So it's kind of like a retouch varnish.
Yes, yes. So for oil painters, it would be like a retouch varnish.
Now,
and what it's
I can't find a thing wrong with this painting.
Well, that's okay because we're going to make it even better. So
good. All right.
We're going to see how there's a way to, and it's not a lot of stuff. It's just coming in and doing some refining and it's going to be a big difference.
All right. Well, I just noticed that she has wings. And,
yes.
And at first I thought that was a hilly mountain in the background. So I guess we could figure out how to.
Yes, we can.
Wings stand out a little bit.
So the first thing I'm going to do is take a mixture of white with a little bit of manganese blue and add some permanent green light into it. Because what I want to do is get something close to what's already here in the background.
All right.
And because I know the acrylic is going to dry darker, I'm actually going to mix this a bit lighter than it is. And here we go. I'm going to start to just put some bold strokes down that are going to redefine what I've got here, but I'm reshaping it. So I'm coming in And I'm going to reshape it here.
That's scary.
It is. However, with the varnish, I'm also able to come in, because it's got the varnish, I could come back in and wipe some of it off if I don't like where it's going. So what I want to do here
You have to
is
wait. You can't do it until you got to do it while it's still wet.
no, I could actually wipe some of it off when it dries, which is
Really?
another reason why I love doing this. So I'm just coming in and I'm continuing to add a few, unify this background a little bit, because I'm going to come in a second and I'll show you how I can wipe some of this off and continue to move it around if I want to. So we're breaking it up. And then what I'm going to do is take a paper towel, put a little bit of water on it, and I can come in, and not only can I lift some of this back up, but it creates, it's bubbling a little bit. And so it's creating a wonderful, almost a watercolor type effect.
And it's kind of acting like a glaze.
Yes, which is exactly what I wanted it to do. So I bring this in and I'm just, once again, looking for ways to reshape this. And then I'm going to go back into the hair and reshape the hair a little bit.
Well, you can get some, well, by doing it this way, you can also get some magnificent effects and some magnificent edges.
Yes, and that's my favorite thing about doing this, is coming in and getting some really cool edges and building on that. So now I'm going to grab over here and I need to do a little bit of touch up on this side, letting this pull in to that wing, because I am going to come back in and paint over the top of that anyway to reshape that. And just trying to, as I do this, I'm putting it down, putting the paint down, then I'm looking back to see, stepping back a little bit to see how it's reading. And now I'm going to come back in again with the wet paper towel.
You're so bold and courageous. I mean, you just get in there and just start making bold marks. I love that.
I found out that if I didn't, the longer I stared at it, the more intimidating it becomes. And I don't like that. I decided a long time ago that if I'm going to do this, I'm going to have to really just jump in and go for it. Because when I don't, the paintings never turn out better. They always end up being a lot, they don't have that life to them. So the next thing I want to do is I'm going to grab a different brush, and I need to do something here with the hair, reshape that a bit. So I'm going to pick up a bit of transparent burnt umber and throw a little bit of, I think this is magenta, it's quinacridone magenta, throw that into it, and use this to come in. And I need to change this hairline here because it's not right. And so I'm willing to let go of that ear in order to get this to feel the way it needs to be.
So it's making me so nervous.
Now, before I did this, though, I did sit down with a little bit of, not a Photoshop app, but just, one on my phone. And I popped in some of these ideas to give myself, to see how it was going to read. And so at least that helps me visualize it as I'm doing this. But I still want to make sure that as I do this, I'm not relying on my earlier sketch done in the app too much, because then I'll get too tight. I'll get too scared. So I have to lay it down and I just have to go with it and see how this is relating, how it all feels as I'm laying things down, and then make decisions based on that.
That's cool. Hello, Norway. Hello, Scotland. You guys tell us where you're watching from, and also tell us where you're going to be celebrating Thanksgiving, if you're celebrating Thanksgiving.
So here, I'm just lifting up some of the paint, and because it's already been varnished, I'm able to pull bits and pieces from what was underneath, which
That's
is
like
exactly
such a
what I
good
wanted to do.
technique. That is so good. I mean, that gives good reason to do that all the time, because you can really make it special.
Exactly. And in fact, if I'm having a problem with a painting, a lot of times I will go ahead and varnish it and then come back in just like I'm doing here and work over the top of it. And then that way it also gives me the freedom that if my idea doesn't turn out the way I thought it would, and once I start putting it on up here on the canvas, I can come back and I can wipe that off and it's not going to be a problem. So the next thing I want to do now is start with a few more of moving this paint around, actually with some zinc white. And the reason I love using zinc white is it helps fade things out and gray up passages.
So you normally use titanium white?
Normally I use titanium white, but when it's something like this now, I can take the zinc white and I can put it on my paper towel, and I'm going to show you how I start to use it, for example, up here in the hair. I can take some of these passages I've just put in and use this to soften these edges and make things move back in space. And
So
help
why
it
would you
also.
do that and titanium white doesn't do that?
No, titanium white is going to be more of your opaque white. The zinc white is transparent enough that it's going to work. It's almost as if you could go back in and erase, not erase, but you're softening passages, and you can see I'm taking it down a lot of the detail so that I can then choose which detail to pull out, back out. And that's the wonderful thing about working with this zinc white, is it's transparent, and it's almost as if you are taking a bit of an eraser and softening what you've done earlier. And when it catches, it creates, like I said, it is graying it down, graying the passage down, bluing it a little bit, if you will, but also softening edges and creating this feeling of a bit of a haze.
So if you were doing this with oil, would you use zinc white or would you use lead white?
I think, lead white, from what I remember, because it's been a long time since I've worked with oil, lead white is more opaque. So I think you still would use the zinc white.
Okay, because it's more transparent.
Yeah, you're just looking for something that's got a bit of transparency in it.
Hey, happy birthday to Was Not Born Yesterday, who is celebrating her 90th birthday. Woo, congratulations.
Oh my goodness. That's amazing. So I've also just taken a bit of a different green I have here. I love this green. It's anise green. It's kind of like a yellow green. And I'm bringing this back in to shape this arm just a touch more. And over here, I want to fade this out a bit. So once again, I'm going to pull some of this zinc white, start fading this out.
What a difference that little subtle thing made.
It's amazing how quickly it begins to reshape itself. And then the other fun thing I can do is use these catalyst blades and come, once I get these edges where I want them to be, first of all, I can soften them a little bit, kind of play with this and lift some of the paint up, and then go ahead and put it back down the way I want it to be. But I'm also going to use an open medium here in a moment, and that is going to allow me to move this around even more. So what I'll do, first of all, let's go ahead and put a little bit more of this burnt umber up with a touch of the manganese blue hue, which is going to give us, it's going to go a lot darker there.
You know, they don't make manganese blue anymore.
Well, it's a good thing I have a lot of it because it's one of my favorite blues. And it really is effective for getting that nice, rich dark. So I'm pulling this down. And then what I can do is come back in with the mixture I did earlier with the white and a little bit of that manganese blue hue and some of the green, the permanent green light. Start with that. Put more white into this mixture. And then this is where we're going to introduce a little bit of the medium onto the squeegee blade. And what that does is, once again, it lets me pull it down and create a lot of these really nice marks, but it's letting it glide even more over the varnish surface.
You are just so brave.
Well, it's sometimes easier to be brave when you feel like if you don't move it, you know, acrylic, if you don't move it around fast, you're going to lose the opportunity.
Yeah.
And it's either do it or you can't come back and move it later. It's going to be dry. However, I find it works in my favor because I wouldn't normally do this.
So does that
And
medium act like a thinner? Is it thinning it down or is it thickening it up?
it's thinning it just a little bit.
All right.
And just enough so that it glides a bit more. And then what I like to do is I combine this with taking just a tiny bit of water. And once again, all this technique works best when you can lift some of the paint off and you're leaving, you know, you have your thick passages of paint, but you're also leaving little nuances that are giving just enough of the color and the value to make it work while still keeping it soft. And so that's what I'm doing here is I'm letting some of that paint that's on the paper towel just work, and I'm softening some of these edges.
It's already a better painting.
Yeah, I can see the difference. And that's when I really love seeing it all start to come together. And in just a second, I'll do a bit of line work that will restate some of these areas. And then we can see what other places need to be adjusted. But yeah, this feels much better. And I like to check it. I have a handy dandy little mirror gadget that I pull out, and I just take a moment. I look back and, you know, make sure it's starting to feel right. And what I'm going to do now is take a liner brush. I've got a little liner brush here that we're going to go ahead and add a bit of definition with using transparent burnt umber, alizarin crimson, and a little bit of transparent red iron oxide. This is going to let me just put in a few strokes. And then once again, what I find I really love to do is put something down, and then I'll often lift it up and restate it. And by doing that, I get really cool nuances of layers and colors that I wouldn't get otherwise. So now I've done that. I can set this brush aside for a moment. And I can also come in and use, I've got this type of spatula that is really great for pulling things out.
Hey, Chantel,
Yes.
I think this would be a good time for you to step away from your canvas, take a break, and then I'll be right back.
Sounds great.
All right. Our guest today is Chantel Barber, and she's talking about how to reinvent a painting. But she also has a really terrific video with us, and it's called Painting from Photos, Expressive and Emotional. And this is a painting in acrylic, and you can find that at 𝗵𝗶𝗃𝗃𝗵. And you might even find it on sale because we have a big Black Friday sale going on right now at 𝗵𝗶𝗃𝗃𝗵. A good time to stock up on your favorite videos. We have over 700 incredible videos, including Chantel Barber's video. So make sure you check that out. What else do we have? Well, coming up, we have so many different events. Let's see if I can figure this out. We have hello. We have the plein air convention, which is coming up in May, and it's going to be like the ultimate Christmas gift. It's going to be in the Ozarks, which are stunningly beautiful. I was like, Ozarks, I don't know. You guys really think we should do it? And then I went there and I'm like, oh yeah, we got to have a convention here. This is so good, so beautiful. We've got incredible places to paint. And even if we didn't, we were in the ballroom with 5 different stages and lots of different painters and lots of community. It's really a great place to go. So go ahead and book now. The main hotel is sold out, but we have 4 other hotels as backups, and they're pretty close. So make sure you go and get that done. That'd be a great, just ask your honey, plein air convention for Christmas, please. Just saying. All right. The other thing that would be a really great Christmas present is Winter Art Escape. That is coming up. It's my retreat in the wintertime. It allows you to escape the winter. That's why it's called Winter Escape. This year it's in Hilton Head in Savannah, February 6th through 13th, a week where you don't have to do anything but roll out of bed. We feed you, we paint all day, we feed you again, we paint the rest of the day, we feed you again, we sit up at night, we do portraits, we hang out, we do music, we just have fun. And everybody just keeps coming back. We're having so much fun. But there are less than 20 seats. I saw it yesterday. I don't know. I think there's less than 20 seats left. Anyway, go to winterartescape.com for that. And we have gouache boot camp coming up. For those of you who watched me do gouache yesterday or watched others do gouache, gouache is hot and it's something you want to learn. So we've decided to put together a gouache live boot camp February 19th. It's a one-day teaching you with 5 really top artists and a one-day just to get the essentials of gouache. We've really, excuse the expression, dumbed it down so that you can really learn the basics and learn every little thing about moving gouache around and using it. It's a wonderful medium. It's my new go-to medium, and it's really wonderful. I'm not giving up on my oils or my watercolors, but it's there's a time and a place for everything. So make sure to check it out. Now we're going to go back to Chantel Barber, who is working on reinventing a painting, and reinventing is just beautiful. She's doing a great job.
All right. So what I want to do now is do a little bit more with these wings and see if we can get a feeling of transparency and also a bit more light coming through. So I'm going to go ahead and grab a dagger brush, and I'm going to put just the zinc oxide white on this brush. And this is going to let you see more how I can fade parts of this out and then restate it by pulling. So I'm writing this over the entire thing, but then I'm going to pull passages back out again. And that's what's going to let me continue getting some really cool effects. And once again, because this painting has been varnished, I have a lot more of flexibility than if it hadn't been, because this is going to lift up easier off of that varnish than if it wasn't varnished. So I'm going to wipe a little bit of that off the brush because I don't want it to get too thick yet. And see, I can even use my brush to come back in and lift parts of this up. And now pull a little bit of this over to the hair just a bit. And we'll come back
The other thing
in.
that happened, that wing on the right of the canvas, it made it feel like it's going back in distance. I
This
thought,
one here?
yes.
Yep. That's,
Yeah. So it made it recede a little bit, which is really an effective perspective.
yes. See, that is what, again, and then I come back with just a little bit of water. And if I wanted to pull some of this back out, I can decide how much of it I want it to come. If I just want a little bit of some of the texture that I had there peeking through, I'm able to do that. And then I can decide over on this side, even if I wanted to come back now, after it's dry, I can still lift up some of the original light blue that I put down. I can scratch it off and reshape the side of this face. And again, I can even bring some of that zinc white into the side of the face, just very carefully now. And that starts to soften the side of the face. And not only is it reshaping, it's turning it and it's making it look like it's going back just a bit, which is all I really wanted it to do. So it's kind of a dance between having the very bold strokes, but then coming back now and having some softer strokes where it's almost as if the brush is just barely touching the surface of the panel, and it's feathering out some of these edges.
I have a question from Carolyn, who asks, would you also rework a painting in this wonderful way, even if it had not been varnished, or would you varnish it to make sure that you have a smooth surface to paint?
I have figured out every way possible to rework paintings. Unfortunately, I'm very critical of my own work, which means that there are often times where I'll come back and say, nope, it just didn't hit the mark. I've got to try it again. And I will paint over, not only will I do it with the varnish like I've done this one, but I'll also come back in at times and I will sand down bits of a painting so that the parts I want are still going to be there. And then I'll paint back on top of that. So if I wanted to, I could have approached this particular piece with a very fine sanding sponge, just a bit of water on it, and chose to sand down different areas and then go back in there and reshape those areas, build them back again. The other way I've done it is I've started over a painting that wasn't varnished and I've started to put the layers up again. So there's many different ways to do this. There's really not a right or a wrong way, because the acrylic is lending itself very nicely to this effect. And see, even there, I could go back in and I could play with those edges and continue to refine the way that I want this painting to feel. And there's still paint on my paintbrush. I haven't had to put any fresh paint on the paintbrush yet. And I think that's another thing that we forget about is, I don't know, but when I was a kid, You would take a colored pencil and you'd press it really hard to get a darker version of that color. And then you'd press it really light if you wanted it to be a lighter version of that color, while still using the exact same colored pencil, changing your value that way. So what I found is a lot of it depends on the touch. There are times where we're being very forceful with the panel and the brush and putting thick passages of paint on. There's other times where it's just the lightest feathering, and it can make an incredible amount of difference to just have a little bit of color nuance coming off this paintbrush onto my surface. And it's this dance going back and forth between these very bold passages of paint and then the lighter touches. And that's what creates not only a beautifully visual contrast, lovely contrast, but also it's creating wonderful texture in the piece. When you look at it close, you see wonderful nuances of texture. And so I'm going to put, well, before I put that aside, I'm going to grab this little edge here too. The other thing is transparent red iron oxide with the zinc. So if I combine both of these, it gives it a wonderful glowing feel, because again, I've got the transparent zinc white with transparent red iron oxide, and both of those are going to allow me to have this lovely feeling of a glow if I want to put that somewhere. And I'm just touching edges to soften them. And then I can go back in and I can decide I'm going to need to do something with this. But until I figure out what I want to do with that, I'm going to move this transparent red iron oxide with a little bit of that zinc white and warm up just the edges of these wings for now. And still using, I think this is a, I'm looking, I think it's a 1-inch dagger brush. And it's great, as you can see, for feathering things out. A little bit more of the transparent red iron oxide with the zinc white. And if I feel like I've got too much paint on the brush, if I've loaded it with too much paint, I have these handy dandy white painting towels, and I touch them, just touch my brush to it, kind of bounce it on it, and then that makes sure that I have just the right amount of paint to touch in to the piece without it giving me a gob, especially if I don't want it to have a gob of paint coming off. And I'm always looking to carry the color around. So if I want to, I can come back and do that down at the bottom here. And let's go ahead and put this brush, well, before we put that aside, I'm going to just lift a little bit of that up with the paper towel.
So one thing you guys need to be aware of is that zinc white can be problematic. It can crack. So if you're painting with zinc white, don't paint thick.
No, very thin. And I have done this for quite a few years and I've not had any problems. But again, I am doing it very thin, and it's not the entire painting. It's just small areas. And the other places I'm using the titanium white. And we'll go ahead and grab another brush, and I'm going to work a little bit on this transition here. I'm liking all the different effects that I've got going on. You know, I mentioned the sanding sponge, and I'm going to show that I can still take, even though this is dry, I can still take one of these little rubber sanding sponges, put a little bit of water on it, and that's another way to lift up some of these passages of paint and soften edges and continue to get just some really wonderful effects. And so I like doing that to move paint around. And so what I'm doing is I'm looking for ways to move paint around, like if you were working in oil. In oil, your paint would be wet still. And so you would be able to just come in and blend these edges and move paint from one area to another. So what I do is I'm just inventing different ways to do that. And you're still able to do the same thing using acrylic. And it's a lot of fun, which is part of what it's all about, to do the painting process. And now I could come back in and use this and continue to move some of this paint around in the wings. And it's picking up just a little bit because it's very, very fine sanding sponge. So it's just barely picking up passages of paint and helping me to pull out some of the design, the pattern that was underneath that. And this is another way, if I pick up some paint that happens to be wet on the corner of this sanding sponge, I could pull that back down in to the painting and create a little bit of what I like to call static marks. And a lot of times, when you make these little marks, just touching it lightly lifts up just enough of the paint so that it doesn't feel too busy. It still has an overall, everything's fitting in quite nicely overall. The other thing we can do is I'm just looking for my water-soluble graphite, because I'm going to put, here we go. I'm going to use a water-soluble graphite stick and use that to create not only a bit of a edge here, but an interesting texture. And I can do that with the acrylic. I can have the water-soluble graphite. Now, if you're going to use anything like that to just add little nuances, you will want to probably spray a fixative, an actual fixative that you would use on pencil or charcoal. Spray that first, and then spray your varnish over the top of it. But this lets me create heavier strokes and little fine lines. And because I've added water to it, you can see it's giving us a few of these drips.
So
and
that's
I can
charcoal?
it's actually water-soluble graphite. So it's a graphite stick. It's going to dry a little bit lighter because it is graphite. And you have the ability to either leave these drips if you like that, or if you want to touch it, you can lift some of that up. And then you can paint right on top of it, back over the top of it if you want.
Truly multimedia.
Yeah. Well, and so the reason I like to show this is if someone is intimidated starting off just with acrylic, try using some of these other techniques to add, adding a bit of graphite into it if you want to do that, so that you won't feel that you're solely relying on the acrylic medium until you get used to the acrylic. So we're back with, I'm not quite sure, what is our time?
I'd say we've got about, maybe 10, 12 minutes.
Okay, good. That's going to help me know what I can accomplish in that amount of time. So I want to do just a little bit more with this side of the face, and going to pick up just a tiny touch of our orange, cat orange, with a little bit of this gray that I love. It's called Neutral 8 Gray. And it's just a nice soft gray version. And then I'm going to come back in here. And as I said before, I can just kind of feather this over the top of what I already had. And then I can come back in with a little bit of that green, this green over here that I created with the manganese blue and titanium white, put some of that on the brush, but I'm going to need to go a little bit darker. So what I'm going to do is pull some of this really dark blue green and then put some of the orange back into that. So it's creating a nice grayish tone. And that's what I want to start to pop over here on this side of the face. And work this into the hair. So then I'm going to come back and pull the transparent red iron oxide with a little bit of the transparent burnt umber and just kind of work us back and forth. So when you're doing edges like this, putting it down and then working it back and forth. Now I've just added a little bit more of the alizarin crimson. And let's put a touch of the ultramarine blue into that. Whoops, now I didn't want that. So here's the really nice thing is I can come and I just lift that up.
You're such a good teacher.
Well, thank you. I try to think of things that I would want to know if I was watching someone paint. And so I'm always, that's my goal, is to try to figure out what would I be interested in and hopefully be able to pass that along. And then just to make sure.
Here's a question from Gabriel.
Yes.
If you were to use this varnish intentionally this way, how long does the varnish need to cure before you can paint and then scrub paint off?
I like to give it at least almost a week, just because. I mean, this one has been dry for quite a while now, but I do like to give it a minimum a week because I'm really attacking this. I mean, I'm not having a light hand here. I'm actually putting, really working my brush strokes back and forth. So I say if you do it with a week, you're going to be good to go.
All right. And for those asking, she is using acrylics.
Yep. I'm using the acrylic and, again, I continue to layer this and go back and forth and create different effects until I'm satisfied that I have exactly what I wanted to have when I started out. So this is one of those things where I could still continue this for, several more hours before I was completely done. Or if I had it the way I wanted it now, I would stop. I'm not using a reference anymore. The reference has long been put away. What I'm doing is I'm responding to what I see happening up here in front of me and making decisions based on rhythm that I see coming through, color nuances that I'm watching develop, and looking for where I feel like I need to have the darker and lighter passages. Now I do want to have a light touch at this point because I have not layered this paint very heavily. So if you pull up too much paint, then you're going to get yourself into a bit of trouble because you're going to perhaps end up with what I like to call the deep hole, which is where you've lifted up too much paint and now you've got to put a lot more back on in order for it to not feel like there's a big gap where the old painting was, and it's the two of them aren't working together. They're not merging. So there's so many fun ways to work with something like this, including even taking a big, huge palette knife and using that to run over these edges. And once again, creating a bit of a static effect. Now, keep in mind, you can use open acrylic in combination with the heavy body acrylic. And that is what is going to give you more of more room in your drying time if you're combining the two of them. And I do like to do that. I like to combine the open acrylic with my heavy body acrylic.
You have all the fun toys.
Yeah, it is kind of cool to be able to pull all these out. And, you know, there are just so many wonderful things that you can do when you're creating a painting. It's endless possibilities. And so it just depends on, that's another reason why I love working this way, is responding to what's happening in front of me. Because as I see what's happening here, I can decide what tool I feel is the best one to continue to pull this together. And this is actually still a little wet. So what I can do now is pull some of that paint off, just lift it on the palette knife, because this had open acrylic in the mixture. And I'm using that to just really lightly pull this background into this to break up these wings even more. And when I do that, we're back to this idea of, if I feel like it got a little too this is a little too light, so I just tap it. And then that way, I don't want it too busy. So I'm always going back and forth between how much is enough. I want to pull this down into here, and I want to add some interesting static marks, but I don't want it to become too busy. So it's this, again, it's this dance of putting it down and then making a decision. And sometimes all I need to do is take this and just lay it on the very edges of that. And it lifts up enough paint so that it still works to break it up, but it isn't becoming a distraction. I'll grab a little bit of that. And actually, while I'm going to do this, I'd like to pull a little bit of that down here. And it continues to give it that dreamlike effect. Now, the only problem I tend to have when I'm working with all these tools is I need another hand. I can't, trying to hold them all and, you know, put them down. And sometimes I find myself thinking, I just need one more hand to hold these things.
Well, you can grow one.
Yes, that might look a little odd, but it sure would help with doing the painting. So I can even pull this in over what I did up here. And then that's great because it lets just a little bit of the brown show through, and now it's combining with this blue-green. And you can see how I have that paint on the edge of the palette. And because, again, it was the open acrylic, it lets me decide, is there anywhere else that I want to pull some of this across and begin to continue this whole exploration. Even just putting that tiny bit there helps reshape the side of the head. It's all about angles. I'm looking at directional strokes and angles. How do you make this start to feel like it's going back? How do you create the feeling of the head and the way this is angling? And, you know, sometimes you can see it right away, but other times it's a good idea to walk back from your painting and leave it for a little bit. And then when you come back with fresh eyes, you're able to see things that you didn't see earlier on. And it's because we start seeing this and we lose track of what really is happening here. We're no longer seeing this for what it is because we're getting too used to it.
Well, this has been wonderful. I know you're probably not done, but it's so much different. I wish I had a before and after picture I should have taken.
Yeah.
Yeah. Why don't you come back on camera and say hi to everybody so they can see your
Yes.
face?
Okay. I will, let me figure out, and I will do that.
All right. So you guys got to see how a painting was reinvented today, and I thought that was pretty cool. Our guest is Chantel Barber. And remember that Chantel has a fabulous video with PaintTube, and you can find her video there at painttube.tv, not .com, but .tv, painting from photos. And it's absolutely amazing. You can see how she starts a portrait, and you'll like that a lot. So make sure to check that out. And remember, there's a there is a sale going on right now, a Black Friday sale. So go to PaintTube. You can pick up a lot of good things at a little special price today. Chantel, thank you for being on today.
Thank you for having me on the show. I love coming on Art School Live, and so glad that we're able to do this even before Thanksgiving, and want to wish everyone a very happy Thanksgiving season.
Yes, and you're going to be driving up to Oklahoma.
I am. I've got a brand new daughter-in-law, so we're driving with a new daughter-in-law, and you know, we are soon going to have our first grandchild. So we're very excited. Lots of good things happening in our family.
How exciting. When is that going to happen?
It's going to be in March. Yep. So we're looking forward to that.
All right. Well, we know what you're going to be busy doing.
Yes.
All right. Well, thank you for being on today and for inspiring us so much.
I appreciate it.
All right. Bye-bye. All right. That's Chantel Barber, and this was absolutely fabulous today. Thank you again. And I want to say happy Thanksgiving to all of you. We will be here on Thanksgiving Day. We will be doing a show, and you want to make sure you come in for that because we're consistent. We made a commitment to be here every day since COVID, and we have never missed a day. Never missed a day. So tomorrow is no exception. Thanksgiving or not, we're working. All right. And we'll be here Friday too. We'll have Feedback Friday here too. Thank you to Chantel Barber. Thanks to you guys. We have a free gift for you. If you want our free gift, just go to acryliclive.com/ebook. It's 11 reasons why acrylic is right for you. So make sure to check it out. This is a brand new product. I haven't even seen it yet, so I'm excited to see that. acryliclive.com/ebook. And make sure to subscribe to this program. If you haven't and you're new, we'd love having you here. We've been here since COVID began, 5 years more. And if you want to learn to paint, you can go back and watch any 5 programs, and you're going to get the confidence you need that, you know, I can do this. And we believe anybody can learn to paint. No natural talent is required. And we've proven it time and time again. And so it's your turn. If you're watching this, maybe you're seeing us for the first time today, go watch it, subscribe, and go watch a bunch of stuff. And you know, and then if you want to take it to the next level, we have lots of things we can do to take it to the next level, but start here. Thank you guys. Happy Thanksgiving. Make sure to go into the comments. Tell us where you're going for Thanksgiving, what you're doing, what your special plans are. I am not going anywhere. I'm staying here. My kids will be here, and that's a beautiful thing. So, and this may be the last time we're together for Thanksgiving. It's hard to know because as they grow and get jobs and get relationships and can't get time off, those things are starting to happen now in our lives. So we're cherishing every moment we have. And I'm going to go painting this weekend. I'm not sure where, but there's some fall color around here over by the dam. And I'm going to go over there, I think, and paint some of that fall color. So have a really terrific weekend. Try to get out and do some painting if you get a chance. Paint every day if you get a chance. My name's Eric Rhoads. Thank you for tuning in. Bye.